Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for giving a voice. I will talk about a plant which is called cassava or manioc. It's a well and widespread plant which oil and seeds can be used as solvent, and oil and straw is big ways with polysaccharides can be used. The cassava, my work, today talk. I'm from Government University, Solosky. In my talk today is about cassava plant, basing of a systematic map of cassava farming practices and the agricultural environmental impact in using new ontologies, Agri-Ontologies 1.0. The work was published by Professor Sutherland from Cambridge University, Department of Zoology, and it was published in Ecological Solution and Evidence. They talk about how increase cassava or manioc, yucca interest in science, because cassava is main food in Africa, many regions, but due to high drought tolerance is increasing. It's more likely as yucca also source of fabric, source of many absorbent, and the seeds are very good absorbent and used in very many packing and chemical unit for absorbing of many substances. And as the pore in, for example, absorbing in sedimentation is very commonly used in chemical engineering as material. It is also very wide used trying to design as ways to the hydrogen fermentation and lignocellulose use of this straw. The kind is that if the hydrogen production, according to Professor Kumar from India, gives even 300 milliliters per 1 kilogram of waste. So it's very high as for dark fermentation. Dark fermentation is after pretreatment of Professor Kumar made in 2018 after pretreatment of heat shock and using as hydrolysis as feed. So it's very useful as material of biofuels. However, Professor Sutherland doesn't show this gap because he culture about culture and economic outcomes. He doesn't mention about huge potential of cassava as energy and biochemical resources, as Professor Kumar in 2018. She shows why was screening the article popularity that Yuka searches that about searches and in multiple interventions and about abstract looking how interest goes excluded if the article wasn't in English and subjects. The subjects was in cassava fields storing the most popular. The comparison was asked for fertilizer and treatment application. The sum scope was using different parts, leaves and straw and seeds. Therefore, its quality is good, fine. The soil and structure, pollutant, greenhouse gases, many. So how the ontologic workers. So if solve this article now mostly about crop yield from the 700,000 articles publications 37,000 publications were mostly about crop yield, crop quality, and yield. How different soil and water goes to the yield of crop, not how to use the agriculture land and wildlife. If cultivating herbs or destroy or fungi, energy was very little interest, but very fewer because biofuel is very much hydrogen because due to much sugar is good waste. And the distribution of articles is mostly on plants where occurs mostly from Brazil, Nigeria, Colombia. However, in India was also, but in India more about this biofuel and waste usage. So, how applying the nutrients different fertilizing. The publications grows very common until after 1980, after energy crisis. So this correlation is not shown by Professor Sutherland, that this correlation of huge interest is coincide with first crisis because firstly was very little 55 65 it was mostly in use this manuka or as absorbent chemical engineering. So this is the stand until 1970 because was work by Professor Shevoronkov from this stage, and these because were very good material for fooling, pouring, for absorbing quality. Next, the particles increased to 20 per year in 1980s, and in 2015 reached to papers mapped publication of 80 publication per year in 2000 publication in the even. However, the 100 600 is the base bar chart, but publications, mostly publication was going from India, from Colombia and Brazil in India. However, yield the highest was in Suriname and India. So however, less yield is in Brazil. But Brazil and Nigeria, the most interest was in Brazil and India. So the high impact of both cultivation and solving solution of waste is in India. The production of is biggest in Nigeria, but this doesn't help in correlation. The variety of seeds, so this publication, the article is using plant or on agriculture ranching. They have the variety, fertilizer, polyculture with non-woody plants, and for example, in forest for trees, orchard can be used, or using of spacing grasslands. This is the most biggest important. The outcomes was about crop yield, not about the money and energy and waste usage. So all in using. Maybe it was by starch using because this cassava Starch is the biggest source of hydrogen in the fermentation and other ways like anaerobic digestion. But doesn't mention about this using as waste. So the Professor Sutherland was using as the low part because he observed of living not after using as waste mostly of processing in energy. So this article is very good because showing the huge availability of cassava, similar to the corn in the countries where corn is based, major ways, or rice. But in Europe, the main similar is to corn and beets and some potatoes. So this is the showing how increased the interest is and how this plant is interested and the development, but doesn't show about development of energetic pathways. So thank you very much for listening to me.